My name is Cathryn Martinez. I do community and government relations for Calpine Corporation. Historically, I have worked in the nonprofit sector, and most of my work has been community focused. I think one of the biggest ones is, again, imposter syndrome. It's this internal thing. As women, we as Latinas, we sit in rooms filled with people who don't necessarily look like us, and we are constantly asking ourselves the question, why are we here? Do we deserve to be here? And I think that that's something that plagues a lot of us, specifically as women, and especially women of color. And I think, to get over that, the biggest help is surrounding yourself by a bunch of other women who are in the same boat, but have found ways to mitigate, have found ways to come together and say, we are all amazing women. We all deserve to be here. Let's take up the space because we historically haven't. So I do government community relations for Calpine. I am constantly out in the community finding new ways to engage with local community members, but also their representatives, different advocates and activists. I think my upbringing had a lot to do with where I am and how I got here. Just the people that I surrounded myself with. I constantly am trying to surround myself with people who are better than me, whether it's professionally, personally, somebody that I believe is currently successful and I want to emulate. My parents obviously have a huge part in who I am and how I work. And so my community focus is driven and led a lot by them as well and what they've done in the community. I think one of the most momentous career-wise was my having to deal with COVID. I think that was a lot of people's. I started about a month before the lockdown hit, and I was doing community engagement and development for a local nonprofit. And community engagement during COVID was not easy. So it was a big pivot that we had to do. And regarding engagement, it was finding out how to do it both safely and also effectively for the organization. And we found a lot of different programming, a lot of volunteer events that we could do safely, and also get our message out there and letting people know what Career in Recovery did, why we did it, and why it was so important to our clients that we have other support from within the community. Last year, I was recognized or nominated for a Rising Star Award by Texas Executive Women. And one of the requirements for the application was a personal narrative. And I think it was 3 to 5 pages. I'm like, how do I talk about myself that much? And as I was reflecting and writing everything that I've done now to this point, I realized if it was anybody else's name on the top of the paper, I would be really impressed and I would be super excited to get them at my table or in the room. And I was wondering, I'm like, why, just because it says Cathryn, am I not as impressed or not as willing to give them the kudos? So it was one of those internal reflections and the noticing of, I have imposter syndrome, how do we get past this? How do we move forward? And just accept, like, this is our place, and we deserve to be here. Every now and then, especially moving from nonprofit to corporate, it's a brand new world. Calpine does energy, so I before had really no idea how the energy sector worked. I knew we needed to turn our lights on at home, but other than that, that was it. So coming into a brand new field with brand new people, and people who didn't necessarily speak my language. I had no idea what the engineers were saying at first. They were using a lot of acronyms, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I had to put my ego aside and say, I don't know what I don't know. I need you to explain it to me, and knowledge is power. And so just being curious has helped a lot. So I've been lucky enough to have mostly amazing women around me my entire life. Most of the women that I hang out with are trailblazers, whether it's in the community itself, in a small scale, or in the state of Texas. So one of the people that I look up to the most is State Representative Cristina Morales. She is an incredible leader in the Texas House. She's an incredible leader to her constituents in District 145. But she's also just a really great friend. And so I have wanted to emulate her leadership in everything that I do, and just consider her one of those pivotal people in my life. Yeah, I would say know who you are, know your boundaries, know what you don't know. I think having the confidence to say, I genuinely don't know this, I want to be curious, I want to ask questions, and here's who I go to for that, is probably the biggest help for imposter syndrome or just anything, confidence in the workplace. Look for individuals who are where you want to be, whether that's professionally, whether that's personally, and go to them, ask questions, find out who they actually are. Sure, we know people from, seeing them speak at a gala or a luncheon, but we don't really know them. So take some time, schedule coffee, schedule a Zoom meeting, and get to know them, ask questions, again, be curious, and don't be intimidated by age or title. At the end of the day, nobody's junior enough or senior enough to not help lift somebody else up. So, I have no idea. I think growing up, based on the people who I grew up with, I wanted to be somebody who held power in a way that could be used for some kind of good. And power, when I was younger, meant a lot of different things, and I think some of which still rings true, which is you have the opportunity to give opportunities. And I wanted to be that person.